Coming out of this movie, I genuinely think that you're either going to hate this film and think that it's awful, or you're going to think it's one of the best movies that you've seen in a long time.
Bing bong.
So I had originally heard about Love Lies Bleeding like 5 weeks ago when it was at Sundance, and it was another one of those movies that goes to Sundance, sets a whole bunch of like bidding records and huge bidding war about who's going to get to actually distribute the movie. A24 picked it up. You know, if A24 picks up a movie, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit out there. They've got quite the reputation for some very interesting films that they've distributed over the years. But the crazy thing about this movie is that it literally was less than 2 months ago that it was at Sundance. And usually when a film gets sold at Sundance, sometimes the distributor will hold on to it for a few months and release it during the summer when more people are going to movies. Clearly, A24 was very excited about having this film, and they dropped it just a few weeks later here in March. Now, despite following this film from Sundance and hearing about all of its hype, I didn't actually know what it was about. I just knew Kristen Stewart was in it. I love Kristen Stewart. I am championing propaganda that she is a good actress, okay? If you saw the Twilight movies, don't let that skew whether or not you think she's a good actress. Watch other movies that she's done. She's really, really talented. But her being in this film is literally all I knew. Kristen Stewart, A24, that's it. That was enough to get me interested in going to watch it. And I gotta say, coming out of this movie, I'm still digesting. This is one of the most out there, weird, beautiful, disgusting, horrible films I've ever seen in like the best possible way of all of those things. I don't even know what genre you could categorize it in. If you go to the Rotten Tomatoes page, funny enough, there's like 6 different genres listed for this film, which is very fitting because it truly is like a crime, drama, mystery, thriller, romance, rom-com, LGBTQ, action, horror movie. Dude, I don't know. It's doing a lot. It's throwing a lot of different ideas at you. This really feels like one of those movies that sometimes you'll draft an idea for a film and then you'll start cutting stuff because you're like, well, I don't know about this idea. I don't know if that theme is really that relevant. No, they left all of it in. I think cohesively it works really well. Dave Franco's also in this movie in a really interesting role. The girl that plays Kristen Stewart's love interest in this film, a like super jacked Giga Chad girl, is amazing. She's like super huge and muscular, so that's great. And she's also a really good actor, and not someone that I was familiar with because the only movie I remember seeing her in apparently was Ant-Man Quantumania, which I think I just erased most of that movie from my mind. Thank goodness that movie is not the last we saw of her, because in this film, she's absolutely phenomenal. Coming out of this movie, I genuinely think that you're either going to hate this film and think that it's awful, or you're going to think it's one of the best movies that you've seen in a long time, because it's just a lot. It's a film that you probably have to watch twice. Knowing how the story unfolds the first time will probably impact how you view this film coming out of a second viewing of it. And I like movies like that. I don't know if I'm going to see it a second time because as this movie was winding down, I'm just like, this is intense. I don't know if I could see myself watching this movie a second time. Like, for the record, for comparison, right? I watched Across the Spider-Verse like 4 times. I watched Bottoms at least twice. But, those were both a lot lighter than this movie, which I think the title is fantastic. Love Lies Bleeding has a lot of significance as just one sentence, and if the themes in the movie are those 3 words. It's truly an impressively chaotic movie that I think sticks the landing in like a weird, funny, horrible way. I mean that in the nicest way possible. I think what this movie does best, this kind of reminds me of a film, also a A24 movie, called Beau is Afraid, that came out last year. A movie that I saw once, and I was on the side of not thinking it was that good. I didn't really like it. It was really long. 3 hours, 3.5 hours, something like that. And not like Oppenheimer, where there's like shit happening the whole time. It was really long. But the one thing about Beau is Afraid, even though I wasn't a huge fan of the movie itself, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was just such a fascinating movie. Love it or hate it. It truly was a really interesting film. And Love Lies Bleeding to me falls into that same category. Like, I liked it a lot, but as I look back on the movie, I think it's also just one of those films where you're like, you're just gonna be thinking about what you saw and what some of these things meant, just some of the ideas in the movie, whether or not they work. And I like that. I like, even if I'm not crazy about a movie, I like that it makes me think. I like that it's not just you watch it and then you forget that you even saw it a couple weeks later. Like, no, I'm gonna be thinking about this one for a while. If you like any of the genres I suggested, whether it's crime or comedies or romance or action, thriller, mysteries, or all of them, you're probably going to like this movie. But be prepared for a wild ride, because that's really the only speed that A24 seems to know. And I love it.